In this lesson, we'll create a text pop animation. Okay, so the text pop animation is similar to the swing animation, but actually has fewer keyframes. So let's start on the 63% and kind of zoom in here. And as you'll notice, we already have our axis in the right place. So I'm just going to make sure I'm in model mode so that I have that whole thing selected. And then what I want to do is basically take the scale down to 0 and then back up to 1. So if I scrub all the way to the beginning, this is where that line first starts. So probably right in here around frame 3 is where I want this first one to occur. So I'm going to take all my scales down to 0 and key them. And then let's go forward. Usually for an animation like this, I like to give myself about 10 to 12 frames. So on frame 9, I'm actually going to scale up a little bit bigger and then allow it to recoil. So let's put it in at a 1.25 for that scale. And we'll go ahead and key that by control clicking. And then we'll give ourselves about 3 more frames, just coming over there to frame 12 to take it back down to 1. And what this does is it just kind of creates something that really feels like a pop. So let's scrub through. You can see it gets bigger and then goes back down. Really cool. So I'll just hit play. And you can see how when you're watching it through and it's going so fast, it's very subtle, but that recoil really adds to the whole thing. So let's come in here and figure out where 57 needs to pop on. So probably right about there is where I would want that one to come on, maybe a frame earlier. So I'll just come over here, copy all my keys. So I'll right click, choose copy, and we'll scrub over to where we want 57 to come on. Select 57, right click and choose paste. And if your keyframes don't end up exactly where you want them, you can just drag them back. Okay, so then we'll grab 62, move forward to where we want 62 to appear, right click, paste. And you may need to move them back a little bit. Okay, so now we've got 3 of those animations. And I would just continue to have those keyframes copied and pasted as the line reaches the place where it turns, and then pop that back into place. So it's pretty easy. I'm not going to make you watch me do all of those pops, but I do want to come back in and kind of do one last thing, which is going to be this part of our graph right here. So this part of our graph is there the whole time. So what I'd like to do is from the very start have that extrusion actually extrude out. So let's find that piece, which actually I think that is what we have selected here, that line graph measurements. So I'll just start that at 0, and if we go into our object tab, that's where that measurement is. So we'll just key that at 10 after about, let's say, 20 frames. So I will go to frame 20 and key that by control clicking the movement property. Then we'll go back to 0 and turn that down to 0, so it has no movement prior to that, and we'll key that as well. So it's just going to kind of extrude out over time. You can see how that just pops up there. So we still need to key the rest of our pop animations, but that's easy to do. And then we can come back in our next lesson and we'll add some textures to this, because I don't know about you, but I'm having a little bit of a hard time reading the gray on gray. And then after that, we'll move on to adding a camera that's really going to allow us to see and showcase the 3D-ness of our piece. So stick around and we're going to learn how to texture this in the next lesson.